Okay, here we go. Prop the mic, PTM here. What's up, Dave?
What's up, man?
How's it going?
Everything's good, man. I keep moving my my podcast location and find the optimal spot to record
Yes.
in the house.
Yes, we had a little wallpaper yesterday. Nice wallpaper today. We got a nice painted green wall.
It's like a green screen behind me, so that we can super.
Maybe we get a little bit more production value on the
Exactly.
podcast. We can do some things with that.
Exactly. We can have me at Madison Square Garden. Cool. So today is Wednesday. We got today big slate, 10 games. Tomorrow, we got a couple games, and then we head into the All-Star break, right?
Yeah, this is really the last big day before a quiet week of NBA basketball. So
yeah. So let's enjoy what we got here, right?
yes, sir. Let's
All
do
right,
it.
so let's dive in. We got the Spurs at the Hornets is the first game. Hornets are -7. Totals 243.5. So big point total here.
Is this the biggest on the board today?
Yeah, this is the biggest one. We got another 240 game, the Jazz and the Grizzlies, but this is the highest one.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a bunch, and especially early. Usually the high total games are the later games, but today we had a few early ones.
Yeah,
so that's good. Matchup wise, bigs and forwards against the Spurs, forwards and combo guards against the Hornets. A couple of things to note: Spurs over the last week or so have been our 29th in turnover percentage on offense. So you could definitely look to get maybe some steals on the Charlotte side there. And other than that, I think that's it. I ended up not finding anything I loved on this game, but I'd like to see what you have.
Yeah. So there were two plays that stood out. The one I didn't research too much because the line seemed high, but LaMelo assists. It was all the way up to 9.5 assists, but he's been he's cleared that with some margin the last 3 games. So,
Okay.
So I thought that was a good play. Mostly, I'm referencing Trae Young. I think it was 2 games ago, had 17 assists against the Spurs.
Wow.
So this is like a real opportunity for a strong point guard. I think about LaMelo, I think about Halliburton, Trae Young, Chris Paul. Those are the types of guys who can put up 15 assists in a game.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good comparison. So I dive into that one a little bit more. I didn't really finish researching that one.
DeJounte Murray was supposed to get those assists in that game.
Yeah, he got too emotional, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Couldn't do it to his old team. Pop will do that to you.
Yeah. You can tug at those heartstrings.
Who I did like was PJ Washington, over 15.5 points, -120. This is a guy that you've looked at in the past.
Yep.
Really good success in his last 4 games. I think he had 20, 17, 22, and 22. So he's been hot of late. I think this is a good matchup. And when they played back in October, against a much more stacked Spurs team, he had 17 points. So,
Okay.
So I think that's a good play here, especially given that you got 244 points to go around.
Yeah, for sure. And your front court matchups are where to best attack the Spurs. So I like that for PJ.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to the Bulls at the Pacers. Pacers -2.5, totals 231.5. Of note, we got DeRozan is out this game, so keep that in mind, right?
I think we may have discovered why DeRozan has not been performing well. Seems like I think he went in for some MRI and they found something like worse than they had anticipated. So it looks like he's going to be missing some significant time here.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah. Matchup wise, you have Wings against Chicago, as we know, and bigs against Indiana. A couple other things to note here. Against Chicago's 27th in the league at turnover percentage over the last week plus, so we can look there. This is the one I liked here. Indiana, they're dead last in opponent mid-range attempts over the last week and 25th in opponent mid-range shooting percentage over the last week. So I like that. And they're also dead last over the last week in defensive rebounding.
Mm-hmm.
So between bigs having a good matchup, between mid-range, having success from mid-range, and defensive rebounding, who do you think I landed on today?
Well, bigs would be Vus.
Yeah,
right.
It's Vus. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a bit of a mid-range game too, right?
That's so he takes 40% of his shots from mid-range. That's 87th percentile amongst big men, and he's shooting 55%, which is the 93rd percentile for big men. So very successful. His line tonight's 21.5 points. It's minus 135. In the last 2 games he played without DeRozan, he had 28 points and 41 points.
Oh man,
yeah.
I was diving into Levine because Levine will have a big game tonight too.
Yeah.
So I was looking into his 4 games without DeRozan this season, and he was 38, 25, 27, 24. But his line is set at 27.5. So he's only crossed that in 2 of the 4 games. He did have 28 against Indiana in their first matchup, but then 14 in their second matchup. So I was doing that same analysis, but just looking at the wrong player. Looks like Vus is
it's Vus, yeah,
is the right guy.
He's the right guy, I think. I also like his rebounds. 12.5 his rebounds, minus 110. But in the 2 games he played the season without DeRozan, 17 and 13 rebounds. Yeah. And
he's been really hot of late on rebounding too.
He's been hot, and Indiana has been god awful. Dead last in the league over the last 8 days.
Why? I don't know. Like Miles Turner's decent rebounder, right? Like what's?
Yeah, I don't know. Did he miss a game or 2? No, I don't know.
I mean, he's always in the lineup. So.
Yeah. So, and then he's done in 6 of 10 overall, 7 of 10 on the road. So I like those 2 for Vucevic. And then I wanted to look at I like the wing matchup against the Bulls. So that's Buddy Hield. I like him over 16.5 points tonight. It's plus 100. His last 2 games against Chicago, 19 and 25. And he's done this in his last 11 of 15 at home on regular rest. That's this season. So, and you get plus money for Buddy Hield here in a great spot for him.
Nice.
So I like that. And then I wanted to take advantage of this Chicago's 27th in turnover percentage over the last week. So I like Tyrese Halliburton over 1.5 steals, minus 109. He's done this in 6 of 10 overall and his last 8 of 10 at home.
You're not really a steal guy. It's nice. It's nice that you're coming to the dark side.
Yeah.
I like any play that you could potentially cash in like the first quarter.
I know you do.
Yeah. The only other thing I told you about Levine. So I don't think he's a great play tonight. He's got a good chance of hitting 28, but not convincing enough.
Yeah.
Pat Williams, 1 steal as well. 8 of his last 10, and his 2 games against Indiana, he went 2 steals and 1 steal. Again, this is just like the Zubac play I gave out yesterday. It's a minus 179 odds, so not a good play by itself. But if you find something to put with it, it's good value. The statistics say that it should be a minus 400 play. So you're getting like a ton of value on this. Just find the right thing to put it with, and the Pacers are coughing up the ball a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right. I like it.
All right, cool. Next game is the Cavs at the Sixers. Sixers minus 2, low total, 216.5. I think we're both taking a pass on this game given the low total. Although I was so tempted to play Jared Allen again, but
yeah,
I don't love playing it against the big man.
Yeah.
So anything?
No, there's no matchups to point out. There's no nothing. Both 2 of the top defensive teams in the league, especially in the East. Nothing even of note over the last week. So low total. Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean this is probably your Eastern Conference championship. Maybe.
I think the Bucks would have something to say about that.
Maybe, I don't know. The Bucks are a little shaky.
Drew Holiday last night.
He's great.
Yeah,
he's so good. Yes, you're right. The Bucks are better than both of these teams, but these are the probably the other two teams that can contend in the East.
Yes, yeah, and Boston.
And Boston. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Boston. Yeah. All right, then we got the Knicks at the Hawks. Hawks are -3, and total's 233.5. So lots of points scored here. This is the fourth game that these teams are playing this year. So lots of data to go off of.
Yes. So what do we like here? Against New York, we could target forwards and combos. Of note, the Knicks are 28th in opponent shots at the rim over the last week and 29th in opponent mid-range shooting percentage, field goal percentage over the last week. So just to note that. And then Atlanta, bigs and forwards. So again, those front court guys we could target against Atlanta. And they're 26th in the league in opponent shots at the rim over the last week. So looking at the Knicks here, I like this combo guard matchup, and I also like this mid-range shooting percentage. So whose game is that? That's DeJounte Murray. He's combo guard for Atlanta. He takes 51% of his shots from mid-range. That's 99th percentile.
Right.
At his position, and he's shooting 46% on those shots, which is 75th percentile at his position. And his last two games against the Knicks, he had 29 points and 36 points. I don't think I gave out the lines. 20.5 points, -110.
Yeah, that was the play that I was on as well.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, he's only hit it in 4 of his last 10 games, but for some reason, he really plays well against the Knicks.
Are a good matchup for him. Yeah.
Yeah. He also had a ton of assists in those games. He had 36 and 9 and 29 and 12. So 9 and 12 assists. So I was looking at his points. That was my initial play.
Mm-hmm.
But you could also do points and assists at 26.5. Against the Knicks, he had 45 points and assists and 41 points and assists. So
you just went through my other two plays.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had points. I had assists. His assist line's 5.5.
Yeah.
His two games against the Knicks, like you said, 12 and 9. He assists on 25% of Atlanta's shots. So that's nowhere. I think Trey assists on like 40%, but he assists on 25%, and that's 85th percentile at his position. So he's definitely dishing the ball, and I liked his PA as well. So I guess we'll decide which one we want to make our official pick. But yeah, we're in agreement on all three of those. Yeah.
We can't get Siakam on this one, right?
Yeah, I know.
We had 3 to choose from, and we chose the one that didn't get there. Maybe we'll just play all 3 of them tonight.
There you go.
Take 2 out of 3 and call it a day.
There you go. All right, and you have anything else on Atlanta side?
No, I was the only play I had in the whole game. So. Okay.
I also like Julius Randle in this game. It's a good matchup for him. The front court guys are where to target. It's 26.5 points, -125. His last 2 games against Atlanta, 32 and 34. I'm not digging too much more. He also seems to perform really well against Atlanta. He's got some bad memories from that playoff series a few years ago. And he's also done this. He performs better on the road, especially recently for some reason. He's done this in the last 6 of 10 on the road, whereas I think it's 3 of 10 at home. So
yeah, I remember you saying that a couple pods ago. Yeah, he seems to be the only player still holding on to that Knicks Hawks.
He's the only player left.
No, but even Trae Young, who was at the center of it, he seems to be over it. We'll see if they ever meet up in the playoffs again. That'll pick.
That's just the kind of guy Julius is. He's just a bad guy,
a bad man in a good way though.
In a good way, yes.
We love Julius. Yeah. All right, cool. Moving on.
Yep.
All right, Pistons at the Celtics. Celtics looked good last night without like half their team.
I don't know how we missed the homecoming game for Sam Hauser. He's a Wisconsin boy. We should have been on it, but anyway.
Yeah, I have to take a minute to think about that one.
Do you need to look up who Sam Hauser is?
Yeah, exactly. Thought he played hockey, actually. Sam Hauser. No, I'm not even sure if there were lines out for him, but he did start, right?
Yeah, he did.
They didn't have a lot of other options,
so somebody had to start. Yeah,
but anyway, they look good. Good. So they're is Tatum playing tonight? I didn't actually look up that lineup.
I believe they haven't posted anything because they're on a back-to-back, so they don't have to put out their injury report till later.
Yeah, he's projected not to play. My guess, this is probably their last.
This is definitely
their last game before the
sure.
break.
So he probably won't.
I can't imagine you're going to rush him back against the Pistons. So, so with that in mind, still the Celtics are minus 7.5 in the game. Totals 224. What do you like here?
I might like Boston. Detroit in this game. They're on 2 days rest. Boston's on the back-to-back. But anyway, matchup-wise against Detroit, bigs, combos, and point guards are who we can look at. And against Boston, point guards are really the only place to look, though the lineup is much different than what we have data on. So take it.
Without Tatum in the lineup. That's a big defensive impact.
Yeah. So the one thing of note over the last week, Boston has been is number 27th in the league in opponent shots from mid-range. So I wanted to do a little digging into Detroit and see who's taking the majority of their shots from mid-range. And ideally, if they're a point guard as well, would be even better. And I found my guy, Killian Hayes, over 10.5 points, minus 130. Why are you shaking your head?
Just I've had no success with Killian Hayes. I mean, I like him. I think he's a super talented player, but he definitely plays like a rookie. This is not even a rookie though. Yeah, this is his second year, right? But
second or third year, maybe.
Yeah, but he plays like up and down. He was supposed to have a blowout game in that Paris game, and he like put up 4 points. He was like the only French player in the game.
I know. So he's on the banned list.
He's on the banned list for me, but
all right.
you can play him. That's
all right, let me just run through this because you might be convinced otherwise. So he takes 52% of his shots from mid-range. That's 89th percentile amongst point guards. His last 3 games against Boston, 17 points, which was just last week, 15 points, and 16 points.
Nice.
His last 3 games on 2 days rest, 18, 25, and 13. So good success against Boston. Good success with the extra rest. Good matchup. Low total, 10.5 points only. So that's my play, my one and only from this game.
Okay. I like Jaden Ivey assists, minus 135. He's done this in 8 of his last 10 games, and his 3 against Boston, he had 6, 3, and 5. So, and the 6 was in Boston. That would be my concern. Is like, how does he perform in a hostile environment? But that was pretty early in the season, and he had 6 assists. So I think he, if he throws the ball to Killian Hayes, and we'll be all set.
I can't get out. You're so underwhelmed by my Killian Hayes play. So much compelling stuff to throw at you.
You've got me intrigued enough that after the show, I'm going to dive back into it. So I'm opening the book back on Killian Hayes, but
not completely
convinced. Yeah, still feeling a little burned from the past.
All right,
let's go. Heat at the Nets. Nets are minus 1. Totals 211.5. Oh, terrible.
Yep.
You had nothing on this game, right?
Nothing.
All right, here's a play. You're gonna hate this play, but use your head and not your heart.
Okay.
Bam Adebayo, 22.5 points under.
Tyler Hero's out tonight, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I meant to dig into some splits with Hero out. I didn't get a chance to just because of the low total. I was avoiding this game. And to obviously, Miami because they're good defensively, and Brooklyn because they're so in flux. But all right, hit me with the thing I'm not going to like.
So I do want to dive in and see the Bam stats without Hero in the lineup.
Yeah.
Different position. So but anyway, so it's minus 115. He's only crossed this in 3 of his last 10 games, and on the season he's crossed this in 36% of games. So he's basically only getting there 30-something% of the time. And when he played Brooklyn just a month ago, January 8th, he had 10 points. Same guy guarding him, right? Nick Claxton.
That's true.
So, and I think Brooklyn has improved defensively since that last matchup. So, and then you couple that with the 211 and a half points for the total. I think this is not. He's a 20-point guy, right?
Okay.
He's not a 22.5-point guy. So
he's not.
So Bam under tonight. That's my only underplay.
Okay. I'll let you
Let's
have
go with it. All right, cool.
Okay.
Next, we got the Jazz at the Grizzlies. Grizzlies are minus 8.5. Another 240-point projected game. You got anybody in this one?
Yeah, I like this one. Utah, we could target wings against Utah and point guards against Memphis. Of note, Memphis is 28th in the league in opponent 3-point attempts over the last week. So I like this wing matchup against Utah, and Memphis has two nice big wings to look at in Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks. Let's go with Bane first. 21.5 points, minus 115. He's done this in his last 4 of 5 against Utah. He's also done it in his last 3 of 4 on 2 days rest. So I like that. I also liked his par. It's 30.5. He's also done it in 4 of 5 versus Utah. And this season, the 2 games against Utah this season, he had 39 par and 40 par in those 2 games against Utah. He's done this in all 4 games on 2 days rest this season. And he's done this in 4 of his last 6 home games. So very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then Dylan Brooks, 11.5 points, minus 125. He's done this in 8 of 11 games on 2 days rest. He's done this in 5 of 7 on 2 days rest at home. And his last 3 games against the Jazz, 15, 19, and 30.
Wow.
Yeah. Only 11.5.
We had we did have one of our followers on Twitter tweet about this one, and I responded, basically just cautioning that Ja Morant didn't play in the last matchup. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at that game. I think the game was on January 8th. Ja was not in that one, and Brooks had a monster game. But
very important to note. Okay,
it counts for a good portion of the offense.
I'd say so.
But yeah, I like both of those plays, even though. Okay, cool.
I might lean Bane a little bit more.
Bane is very consistent.
He'll still play well even with Ja there. Brooks, I think definitely the usage ticks up quite a bit with Ja out. And then I had one on I like this point guard matchup against Memphis. It's been it wasn't great to start the season, but it's been very good lately. So Colin Sexton, he's the starting point guard now since the Mike Conley trade. In the 4, I like his points and assists. It's 22.5 points and assists, minus 120. In the 4 games since the Conley trade, 24-20. That was the only game he didn't hit it, and then 28-27.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good find. Nobody's really talking about Colin Sexton.
No, not really. The other one I wanted to look, I like this, that Memphis has been 28th in opponent 3-point attempts over the last week, and the point guard matchup. So Jordan Clarkson is the other guard. He's like the off guard, but he definitely, threes are not Colin Sexton's game, whereas they are for Jordan Clarkson. So another thing possibly to look at in this matchup.
All right, cool. That'll be a fun game.
Yeah, that will.
All right, so next game we got the Rockets at the Thunder. Thunder are minus 10. Total's 234. What's popping for you here?
I love this game.
Yeah, you love the youth.
Yes. So very interesting stuff here. So on the OKC side, this is pretty crazy. Over the last week, OKC is dead last in opponent 3-point attempts and 29th in opponent 3-point percentage. They're also dead last in opponent mid-range percentage, and they're 29th in opponent field goal percentage at the rim. So they're basically either 29th or 30th in opponents shooting, regardless of where they're shooting on the court.
Right.
And they're also dead last in turnover percentage as well over the last week. So you could really look. I think it's a good spot for some of these young Houston guys going up against this OKC team who's been bleeding points lately. On the Houston side, You could target point guards, so that would be SGA. We're going to look at him. And also of note, so Houston is 26th in opponent three-point attempts over the last week, and also 26th in opponent three-point percentage, and 29th in opponent mid-range percentage. This one's going to surprise you. Houston is the number 2 over. This is just over the last 8 days. Houston is the number 2 offensive rebounding team, and the number 5 defensive rebounding team. So
that doesn't surprise me, actually.
No,
they're actually really, really good at rebounding. I know that because I've played a couple of people against Houston in the past, and they've gone under quite a bit. So yeah, it makes sense. You got athletic
that's true
guys, right?
That's true. And OKC is not a good rebounding team. So this is definitely something we to look at here. So what I got so far is I wanted to which was my okay. So I like Kenyon Martin over 14.5 points. He's done this in his last 8 of 10, and one of those he had 14. So he's almost done this in his last 9 of 10. Kevin Porter is still out, and he's also done this in his last 8 of 10 on the road as well. So I like that. I like the rebounding here. So there's 2 guys. There's one guy on Houston whose lines aren't out yet, Eason.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in the 99th percentile in offensive rebounding and the 92nd percentile in defensive rebounding. So I would take the over on his rebound line when it comes out later. I like that quite a bit. The guy who I have something else on is Şengün, 9.5 rebounds. It's not super compelling. Like we don't have like a 5 of 10 even or a 6 of 10. But his last 3 against OKC, he had 4 rebounds in one game, but then he had 12 and 19. So he's definitely had success against OKC. One bad game. I didn't do a ton of digging into what happened in that game, but I think he's in a good spot here tonight. But I love Eason. He'll have lines that they're not out yet, but he'll have lines later.
Yeah, I'm looking at Eason right now. If you look at his last 7 games, right?
Yeah.
He had 2 against Philly, 3 against Miami, 4 against Sacramento, 5 against Sacramento, 8 against OKC,
Wow.
4 against Toronto, and then 13 against OKC.
Wow.
So it looks like he kind of averages over that span. He averaged 5.6 rebounds, but so I wouldn't be surprised if his line comes out at like 7, somewhere around 7. But he had 8 and 13 against OKC, so
nice.
He is a good play. I think I like him. And then he had 6 in the first matchup in November.
Okay. I like that. I also liked his steals. He's in the 95th percentile amongst bigs and steals. He gets a steal on 2.2% of Houston's plays. So combine that with OKC being dead last in turnover percentage. I like that one as well. Do you have anything on the Houston side?
Yeah. I like Jalen Green over 23.5 points, minus 120. He's been back now for 5 games since he was injured. The first game back, he played actually against OKC and only had 12 points, but lower minutes, working out the rust. Since then, his last 4 games, he had 27 points, 41 points, 11, and 29. So he seems to really be crushing it when he is surpassing it. Right, it's almost like you might as well play 25, 26 points.
Yeah.
And what I like the most. He in those last 5 games, he's averaging 20 field goal attempts a game. And listen to this: against Philly, his last game, he had 15. He went 15 for 17 from the line.
Wow,
15 free throws. So that to me is a good sign. That means he's being aggressive. He's trying to get to the hoop, not just jacking up threes all game. So I think he's due for like a 30-point game tonight or high 20s.
Yeah, I could see him and SGA going toe-to-toe tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
He was my play on the other side. His line's high, 32.5. But his last 2 games against Houston at home, He hasn't had as much success against Houston in Houston, but at home, 42 points and 39 points his last two games against Houston.
Nice.
And he's also done his last 3 of 5 at home, and that included one of those was that 42-point game against Houston on February 4th.
Yeah. I also liked him, but I was on his steals, actually. Over 1.5 steals, minus 103, so I liked the value. He's done this in 6 of his last 10 games, but versus Houston this season, 2, 3, and 3. So he's cleared it in all 3 games against Houston. Houston is the worst team at handling the ball, averaging over 10 turnovers that lead to steals a game. So I don't see how SGA doesn't get the 2 steals tonight. I think it's good value.
I'm into that. Yeah, two young teams are going to be have some trouble holding. Yeah, fast paced. Have trouble handling the ball. Yeah.
Wow, a lot to choose from in this one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. You good on this game?
Yep.
All right, so we got the Mavs at the Nuggets. Nuggets are minus 4.5. Totals 233.5. Anybody standing out for you here?
Point guards on both sides are where we could look. One thing of note for Dallas. Over the last week, they're 25th in opponent mid-range attempts and 28th in opponent mid-range percentage. So I'm going to look for someone whose game that fits. They're not at. They're also dead last in opponent field goal percentage at the rim over the last week. So that's something else to take a look at. There's not a lot of compelling stats to back this up, but he is a guy who does the majority of his scoring in the mid-range. It's Nikola Jokic. 26.5 points. I don't have a ton. The splits are not great. I don't have a ton of stuff to throw at you. I just have a feeling here on this one.
And he's a guy who performs better at home.
Yeah,
sure.
But you'd be surprised. I think he's only cleared this in 3 of his last 10 at home. So
okay.
I think he gets up big for this game, especially with the acquisition of Kyrie to Dallas and whatnot at home. So it's more of a gut play here.
Yeah, you got the Jokic, Luka, little Euro basket.
I like it.
History there. So, Jokic, I had a play on him. I mentioned this to you the other day. I want to bring it to the show. First quarter is always fun for Jokic. Listen to this. His last 5 games at home. Assists in the first quarter, 5, 5, 4, 5, 6. His line is 3.5, and it's plus 129. So it feels wrong to have to go with 4 assists for a guy in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
He's going to play 10 minutes in the first quarter, but it's so compelling when you look at what he does at home. He dishes the ball, he runs that whole offense. I think 4 assists in the first quarter is a good play, especially in this game where, like you said, it's going to be a competitive game.
Yeah, his home road splits on assists are crazy. He really dishes the ball much more at home.
Yeah, that was leading me to also look at just his overall assist line for the day. I think is good. I don't remember what it was set at, but he's averaging like 13.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't think of recent times where they've played, but it seems to me you have 2 of the best best passers in the league, going up against each other tonight, in Jokic and Luka. So I think it's one of those things they're trying to one up each other, show off a little bit, even though that's not really Jokic's game. But
yeah.
Okay,
cool. And then last game, we got the Pelicans at the Lakers. Lakers are minus 4. Totals 234.5. Any game the Lakers are involved in is a 230 game.
Yep.
Or more. What's obviously you got some storylines here, but what's standing out for you?
Yeah, so like you said, every game against the Lakers is a high total. It's also I think they are the only team in the league who have 4 positions, 4 of the 5 positions in the top 5 to target. So, bigs, wings, combos, and points all have had tremendous success against the Lakers. And then the one for New Orleans is bigs. That's the one place you can look to target them. So that's LeBron and AD. So I have a feeling you have something on AD in this game. I have one guy I like here. And I kind of was targeting this based on the Lakers over the last week are 29th in opponent 3-point attempts in the league. So I like Trey Murphy here. I like his points and I like his threes. Let's start with the points. He takes 57% of his shots from three. That's in the 76th percentile. And he's shooting 41% from three, which is in the 82nd percentile at the wing position. He's done this in 6 of 8 overall. He's done this in his last 7 of 9 on the road. And just last week, he had 21 points against the Lakers.
Wow.
I also like his threes. It's 2.5 threes, and it's plus 120. He had 4 threes in that game against the Lakers. And he has cleared 2.5 threes in 4 of his last 5. His output in those games, 3, 2, 4, 6, and 4. And he's doing that on an average of 8 3-point attempts per game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that it? That's all you got?
That's all I got. I'll let you take it away with Mr. Anthony Davis.
Yeah, AD. I don't know. I woke up this morning. I saw his numbers. I thought it was too good to be true. I had to get this play out on Twitter as soon as I could. I'll just read what I wrote this morning. So it looks like LeBron's going to play, which obviously has an impact on AD. But in the last 10 games without LeBron, AD has crossed his rebound line of 11.5, 9 out of 10 times. So if for some reason LeBron ends up sitting this game, again, I'm surprised that they would bring him back if he's nursing some sort of injury. Like, why bring him back before the All-Star game?
Yeah.
So that's an upside to this. If he doesn't play, this is a cash for sure. If he does play, AD still crossed this in 6 out of 10 games. And then when you look at his games against his former team, the Pelicans, AD has covered in all 3 of the last matchups. He had 12 in April of last year. He had 16 back in November, and he had 14 back on February 4th. So, and just recently, he's just been rebounding like a machine. What has he done in his last 3 games? Were against Milwaukee. He had 16, 21 against Phoenix, 16 against Milwaukee, 16 against Golden State, 20 against Portland. So the guy's just going after it. So I think that'll continue tonight.
And for the icing on top, I can point out to you that New Orleans is 29th in the league in defensive rebounding over the last week. So
yeah.
So
I brought my almost left up my mind. Brought my hammer today for this one.
We're gonna hammer it.
I'm hammering that. Yep.
Yeah, all right.
We'll throw that over there. And then Ingram, I think, is also a decent play tonight. 25.5 points. The line's very high, but minus 115. He's done this in 4 of his last 5 games. And his last, don't forget, he used to play for the Lakers too.
That's right. So he's holding trade.
He's holding a little grudge there too. Although I think he's probably happy in New Orleans. But his last 3 against LA, 26, 29, 35, 35 being this season.
I see that
all
right
3 of
here.
those games. Yeah, all 3 of those games, Zion did not play. Zion's obviously not playing tonight. So I think he's a great play too, especially given the defensive weakness of the current Lakers team.
Yeah. All right. I like that. And I always love when the narrative is the guy, I more so than AD playing the Pels in LA. I like Ingram playing in LA against his old team. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that who he was drafted? He was drafted by them.
He was drafted by them. Yeah.
That has a little extra too there.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
All right. That does it, right? We got through 10 games.
I think so. Went a little long today, but it's tough when there's so many games. We got a nice 3-game slate tomorrow, and then a nice little reprieve, and get to enjoy the All-Star festivities. So
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, enjoy the games, and we'll get these the best of our picks out on Twitter shortly.
All right, sounds good. Nice work.